Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
The following is just good old common Western sense. The most important rule in a gunfight is always win. There is no such thing as a fair fight. Always win. Cheat if necessary. Amen. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance this morning. Good morning, good morning. Thank you very much. God bless America and Kate Smith. And good morning, everybody. I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers that we really want to say thank you to, like Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley. And our friends at Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. And that's, of course, call Kelly at 734-6969. Oh, yawn. Good morning, Gina. How are you?
I'm doing well, and how are you on this fine Tuesday?
Well, interesting day yesterday, and I should have never built the sun deck on my back porch.
Why, did you fall asleep and get a sunburn?
Yep. Yep, you got it.
The one-sided sunburn, isn't that always?
I'll tell you what, it must have really looked intelligent for my fat jowls to be on my chest, sleeping while people drove by and said, "Wow, look at old Zeb, he's just passed right out in that lazy boy chair."
And Deanne didn't even bother to wake you up, huh?
She was sleeping too.
Did she get sunburned too?
Yeah, we both did.
Walked gingerly today.
Yeah, well, it was kind of comfortable. We came home, and there we were, right there on the sun deck, and she looked at me, and I looked at her, and I don't remember anything else for about an hour and a half.
Well, it appears that you needed and had a fine nap.
Yes, we did. Do we have a pledger?
We do. We have, showing up on the caller ID, it says Paul Brown, and then we do have Michael Rogers on for the weather.
All right. Well, good morning, pledger. Go ahead, Paul.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I got a bone to pick with you this morning, Paul Brown. You haven't called in for a long time, and we've missed hearing from you. Thank you so much.
Well, I can't get in. Somebody's always in front of me. I call in, but somebody's already there. So don't give up.
All right, you do a great job. Thank you so much.
Okay, have a good one.
All right, sir. Thank you. It's time for the weather with MichaelRogersWeather.com, brought to you by some really, really good folks. Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Oh, my goodness sakes. Locally owned by Kyle and Whitney Cheney, and they are great. Their guarantee is they can meet or beat any price on flooring, and their slogan is where your home design needs are aisles apart, not miles apart. And they can help you with hardwood flooring and laminates and vinyl sheeting and all the carpet and the cabinets and the natural stone and the Oakley stone. Holy cow, give them a call, 678-6945. Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Look for their blue door at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Here now is Michael Rogers Weather.
Great sun tanning weather for today, just like yesterday. Only a little bit of clouds, 86 for the high today.
50 for the overnight low tomorrow. More of the same, slight chance of a thunder boomer on Thursday night. And then once you come out of that, weekend looks good. Enjoy the day, enjoy the weather, sing the weather you got.
There's my buddy Michael Rogers, Weather.com, brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for their blue door, 678-6945. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. We're going to have the tip of the coffee cup in just a moment. I got some public service announcements to mention. First of all, Dave Zanino is going to have the Jerome County Fair team roping tomorrow night, and it starts at sign up at 6:30, rope at 7, 3 for $20 draw pot. Excellent ropings. Coming up on the 28th, Saturday the 28th, don't forget the great big Iron Kilt Festival at South Freedom Park in Burley. We're going to tell you more about that in a little bit. Fisherman's Breakfast is going to be this coming Saturday. Let me see. Yeah, this coming Saturday at the Rupert Senior Center, all you can eat for just $6 starting at 10 o'clock, or 7 to 10, pardon me. And also, a little bit later on, we're going to tell you more about the POW MIA food booth that's going to be on the Rupert Square. Oh my goodness. And this is going to be excellent with pulled pork sandwiches, bass chorizos, all kinds of German sausage. It's going to be fantastic on June 29th. Don't forget that. I'll tell you more about it in just a little bit, but right now, also want to remind you about Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. I mentioned yesterday about the gift cards, and I'm going to be going in there this afternoon. I got a whole bag of Rumply Crumplies. What a great gift idea to give somebody is a prepaid gift card to go get their clothes cleaned at Daryl's Cleaners. Yes, greatest cleaners in the universe, bar none. And all your Rumply Crumplies, all easy to say, Rumply Crumplies, along with your tablecloths, your drapes, everything at Daryl's Cleaners, cleaned and looking brand spanking new. 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. And also, we want to say thank you to SafeLink Internet. Every day, honestly, we're very thankful that we're with SafeLink Internet and their package that really helps us get all the information we need on this program. All you have to do is call them at 677-8000. That number again, 677-8000. Idaho's number one choice, and has been for over 16 years. SafeLink Internet, serving you. 677-8000. All right, now give us some calls, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, the Obama administration planned on the illegal alien children being here. Now, there's no secret. I mean, they found the memos. They found all the investigative reporting they needed to prove that the Obama administration planned on these illegal alien children being here and getting here. They planned on this last January. This is so despicable, and this is so low. Last January, and there's proof of what I'm saying, and they even knew the approximate numbers that would be coming in. The criminality of this administration should make you sick. They are criminals. The whole administration, criminals and liars and frauds. They were even looking for escorts for these kids. Now, I just absolutely am appalled. Every single thing that Frosty Woolridge has told us over the many years he's been on my program about illegal aliens and how literally millions of people were going to be enhanced to come here illegally thanks to the political closed eye of this administration. And now here, this part you're not going to believe. But some dim-witted Democrat representative back east wants to have you and me. Now listen to this. They want to have you and me pay for lawyers for each and every child that's coming in at our expense. They want to have a lawyer for every single child so that they can sit down with the child, the lawyer can work with the child, they can find out what the family is, where the family is, who the mom and dads are, and bring them in. And we're going to pay for this. That's a bill that one of these dim-witted Democrats has introduced. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. A little bit of a twist to all of this. Concerns that I have is all these children coming in. How many of them are they going to lose those contacts of? How many of these children are going to be going into slave labor? How many of these children are going to youth camps where they can train them and brainwash them to be what they want them to be? How many of them are going to be used for the sex trade that they have for children? Because there's not going to be contacts on all of those parents. They're not going to keep track of all of them.
Sharon, there's no way that I would even attempt to answer that question because there's not an answer for your question. First of all, it's a good question, but there's no answer for it because how are you going to define 10%, 30%, 25 kids, 175, 5,000? You can't give me an answer on it either because you don't know. These are intangibles that make this story even more heinous as a crime.
Absolutely. And like you guys mentioned yesterday, who in their right mind would put their 4, 5, 7, 8 years old child on a bus to a country where their child doesn't speak English? They have no clue where that child is really absolutely going to wind up, with the idea that maybe someday they might be reunited.
You know, this is the part that absolutely blows my mind, and this is the part of the story that brings a tear to my eye. Here you have, and let's just use the supposition of a 6-year-old boy, okay? And we've seen many of these sitting in terminals, of bus terminals, and sitting down at Border Patrol stations. 6-year-old boy. Now, a 6-year-old boy, I have grandsons now that are older than that, but I remember they're 6-year-old. And I've got some that are younger than that. I cannot imagine a 6-year-old boy sitting there, or a little girl, and trying to give out information about where they're going to go, how they're going to get there, where they're going to meet somebody, who they're going to meet, etc., and what kind of transportation and mode of getting a hold of these people. 6-year-old kids, they have no clue. This is one of the most heinous crimes that's ever been committed by any political group in America.
Yeah, exactly. And like you're saying, to what means, what end do they feel like this is a gain for them, other than votes and or people who will be on their side and fight for them in incorrect measures, things that would be totally inappropriate towards the American people?
Yeah, well, let me ask you a question now. If you worked for the Border Patrol, how would you feel having your boss, the head man of your Border Patrol station, tell you, all right, we know you're putting in already 10 to 12-hour days, but we're going to have to elongate your hours. You're not going to get paid anything more for it. Here's what we have to have you do. You've got to follow these kids. You got to do this. You got to go get the diapers. You got to go get the food. You got to go make sure they're taken care of. You got to go find somebody to babysit them. The job that the Border Patrol has is to protect our borders. And right now, all the drug culture, all the bad guys are coming across, and they're not even being confronted because the Border Patrol is too busy with these kids.
Well, that's exactly it, and that's also part of it, of smoke and screens, smoke and mirrors, so that they're busy doing something they don't necessarily need to be having to do because it's not appropriate to be happening, so that it's distracting all the things that are going on. And then the other concern that I would have is, just like you said, just all these drug people coming through. My gosh, they're coming through with these children. And what are happening to these children as they're being transported?
Yeah.
With no supervision.
Yeah.
With these horrible people out there.
And let's not be naive about this. All of these kids, underline the word kids and put it in parentheses, they're not kids. They're not all the goody two-shoes kids that like to sit and watch Saturday morning cartoons, many of which they're not sure about their ages and have direct ties, now they're finding out, to very, very distinct gangs like MS-13, and we've got a lot to worry about with this major problem.
Oh, yeah, and if they've got kids that are small in stature who could pass for someone younger, Yeah, you better believe that they're doing that.
Yeah, I got to do a commercial break. But by the way, on the phone with me is Sharon Hardy Mills, and Sharon's going to do the program for me on Thursday. God bless you, Sharon. Thanks for your call.
Thank you.
All right.
Great rest of the day.
Thank you. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Number to call 678-0459. And as you have probably heard, it's air conditioning weather. Yes, and if your air conditioner does not have a clean filter, how in the world do you expect your air conditioner to do the job for you? Well, get into Ramsey's today and get a clean filter, a new one, and you'll be ready to stay cool. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Number to call 678-0459, where they provide warm winters and cool temperatures in the summer. Don't forget, too, Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Oh, as I've mentioned, fair time is right around the corner, and there's so much to get done and be ready for fair time. All the 4-H projects, you know you got to get everything just ship-shape and ready to go. You want to have the best of feed for your livestock. They've got it. They've got all your 4-H supplies. Everything you need is at Valleywide Home and Ranch. All the health supplies are there, even the dog and kitty cat food and the Gallagher fencing, everything. That's a one-stop place. All your clothing is there, your boots, they got a great selection of boots, and you're just going to love the people. Steve, Mandy, the whole crew, Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. You stop in and see them today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb. You know, it sounds to me like that's just a real good system. Having the Border Patrol so busy, we'll have all kinds of drugs and all kinds of stuff skip across that border that we don't really want.
Well, Jerry, that's so obvious. I mean, this almost is like a smokescreen to allow in the filthiest, most atrocious, most criminal elements right across our Swiss cheese borders because the Border Patrol is too busy babysitting.
Well, I think it's just a crying shame that something like this could happen. And, you know, in any other country, they would have turned them right back immediately.
As well they should.
I just can't see any sense in hiring lawyers to defend children that have been sent here illegally.
Absolutely.
We aren't going to accept them if we're honest and fair.
Absolutely, Jerry. I hate to sound hard-hearted and cruel and everything else, and some of the Democrats, you know, the liberals will go, oh, we can't send back the children. Yes, we can, and yes, we should right now today.
And I agree 100%. I'll get out of the way. You have a wonderful day.
All right, Jerry. Thank you so much. Always appreciate hearing from you, my friend. Caller number 2, I'll be right there. Don't go away. Denny's Restaurant. Oh, my. 611 Overland in Burley with the manager, owner, Thomas. I'm telling you, the food is fantastic. They really have a delicious menu. Everything on the menu is fantabulous. I'm working hard to try to everything. I really am. I love breakfast as my favorite meal. Oh, my. They got some great, great choices. You're going to love breakfast, lunch, and dinner at Denny's Restaurant, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch at 611 Overland in Burley. And besides a great menu and great food, great service. They really take care of you. Stop in. You'll see what I mean. Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, Zeb, Jim Edwards. I think this thing about the children, I think they've emptied the orphanages in Mexico.
Now, that's something I had not even thought of or heard of, and interesting point. Now, why would you say that? What proof do you have, Jimmy?
I don't believe they can get that many mothers turned loose as the children.
Excellent point. I know that when I first heard this story, I thought, how in the world could anybody anywhere around the globe turn their child loose to go literally thousands of miles into strange territory with strange people, not knowing anything about who would take care of them or what's going to happen? You bring up a very interesting point, and I'm going to pursue that after the program this morning.
I think this is kind of like Fast and Furious in reverse.
Excellent point. What should we do? You know, everybody's playing on the heartstrings of America. Oh, take the children, help them. What would you do if you were right now in power, Jim?
I don't see how the children get in the first place. I've come in from Mexico several times, and I've never been able to come through without proving I was a U.S. citizen.
Well, basically what these kids are doing is they're being dropped off at the doorstep, literally, of our towns and cities on the border, and the people are walking away and leaving them there, and so I guess it's the public outcry to help these kids, and then we're taking them across the border and we're helping them find places to go.
Well, I think we ought to take them back to Mexico and walk them back in and drop them on the doorstep of the government there.
You know, I'm really going to pursue that. I've got a person that works with the Daily Caller back east in New York City and Washington, and I'm going to pursue that angle about these orphanages. Jim, thank you very much for your call this morning.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. That's a good point. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget our friends at Berry Equipment and Rental. 3 locations. I'm choking to death here this morning. I'm sorry, a little bit of hay fever. 3 locations to serve you. Addison Avenue West and Twin, along with South Lincoln and Jerome, and their new location right there on Highway 30, 159 West Highway 30 with Nick and the crew. Oh, boy. They got the Coyote tractors, and they got the Doosan loaders. They got a big Doosan out there in front. Woo-hoo! I mean, orange paint. It's ready to rip anything. It can get the job done. And they got a Bobcat inventory in stock and ready to go for you. You better believe it. Bobcat excavators, everything at Berry Equipment and Rental. Addison Avenue West in Twin, South Lincoln, Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. The best at Berry Equipment and Rental. All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I absolutely feel complete sympathy, and I mean this when I say this, to our Border Patrol agents, the management of the Border Patrol, and how they're ever trying to schedule around these absolute days, which are days from hell. I mean, all these kids, all the babysitting, all the food, all the trying to figure out living conditions, and at the same time, they can't possibly do their job of protecting our borders, which I am going to blatantly say I think is the purpose as to why the Obama administration forced this upon us. And you know me and my thoughts about the Obama administration. I think they are doing everything they can to go to an open borders situation, not have any borders. I think that they've done everything they can to go against the rule of law. I think they're doing everything they can to dispose of the world's greatest document ever, our United States Constitution. And for a representative of our United States to say that you and me, this is what really bugs me. Everybody wants to tell you and me how we can spend our money and what they're going to do with our money, but they want to hire a lawyer, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. They want to hire a lawyer for each and every kid at our expense. Caller, I appreciate your call. Please, stay on the line. 60 seconds. I'll be right with you. We've got to have the Capital Press Ag Minute. I'll be right back. Stand by.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly.
Go & Company has agreed to resume making a herbicide many Idaho bean growers say is their best tool for controlling the troublesome nightshade weed. But Go & plans are contingent on a commitment from Idaho dry bean industry to purchase Eptem 20G, a granular version of the company's Eptem product. Eptem 20G is bulky, so the company does not want to store it, and chemical distributors are hesitant to buy it until they know there is grower demand. The IBC asked Gowan in January to resume producing the product, which was discontinued in 2008. The company said it would produce a 2-year supply for Idaho bean growers if the industry can prove farmers would use enough of the product for at least 30,000 acres.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and CapitalPress.com.
Hey, don't forget, we were over at Snyder's Surplus a couple of days ago for their grand opening, and I'll guarantee you they've got everything over at Snyder's. Snyder's Surplus at 112 South, 200 West of Rupert, Leland and Tammy, the whole crew. It's not just a military surplus store. They've got everything. Hours are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, Saturdays 10 to 3. You stop over and you'll just love shopping at their brand new store. New merchandise, friendly service at Snyder's Surplus. Again, at 112 South, 200 West of Rupert. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Outlaw number 2.
Okay, thank you. What do you got, Al?
Well, I've been watching all this stuff, and Zeb, it's a crying shame that they allowed these little kids to become pawns in one of the dirtiest, rottenest schemes I've ever seen put on this United States.
Well, you right there, you summed it up. One of the dirtiest, rotten schemes. And this scheme was hatched by the Obama administration, planned by the Obama administration, and they had the numbers planned out. They knew exactly when to do it, how to do it, etc. Al, why can't the general public be absolutely outraged over what Obama and his henchmen have done?
Because they all say, well, we haven't been informed. Well, for hell's sakes, people, wake up, look at the damn news once in a while, and you can figure out what's going on.
No, they were informed.
Somebody with strings on his legs and arms could be told what to do.
Yeah, they were informed because they were the ones that planned it, Al.
I know it. And this, like, I want to just put this in there because a lot of it's coming from just like this hearing on that IRS. Did you watch that yesterday?
I did.
Ain't that something, how them Democrats can sit there and praise that sucker?
Well, you know, Koskinen, with the IRS, I got to be very honest here. If I were one of the questioners, regardless of what party affiliation, this man is so smug, this man is so arrogant, this man with that Cheshire grin on his face all the time, I absolutely couldn't sit in the same room with this man and listen to him as he has this arrogancy that just permeates. I'm better than you, and I'm not going to tell you anything.
Right, and then back on the kids, what gets me is these Democrats say, oh, well, we're trying to get our voting base up. Well, I got news for them dumb donkeys. Them kids are 5 and 6, 7 years old. You got to be 18 years or older to vote. So who's going to take care of them until they're able to vote for you guys?
We are.
I know.
Yeah.
And I can't afford it, really.
Al, none of us can. Thank you so much. God bless you for your call. Thank you. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Seriously, why should you and I'm a grandparent, for heaven's sakes. I got 5 grandkids. Why should we, through our tax dollars, be liable and susceptible to absolute huge increases, rips out of our pocket for more of our money to take care of these kids and provide them not only with housing and food and clothing, but also the travel, the destinations as to where they're going to go? And then pay for attorneys for each and every one of them? Well, here is your legal counsel, little 6-year-old, and you try to tell him as much as you can about where you came from, where your mommy and daddy are, and the American taxpayer is going to foot the bill. Holy cow. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. Do you remember what Cuba did many, many years ago?
I do.
And when they emptied their jails and everything and sent them to the United States.
Yep. Look at the type of person. Look at the problems that caused, Lorna. You go ahead and tell everybody it was absolutely despicable.
But they probably emptied their juvenile systems and, like they said, orphanages, whatever. But look at the poor kids. I mean, what has happened has not only been a crime against our borders, but it's a crime against those kids.
Well, it is.
I bet there's a lot of little kids sitting down there crying because they don't know what in the heck's going on and what's going to happen to them.
You know, that's the sad part of this whole story. But then on the other hand, Lorna, that's the heartstrings that they want to play. They're going to have the American public see this little 4, 5, 6-year-old little girl sitting there holding a doll that somebody gave her, and she's got tears running down her face, and the American people, being the kindest people in the world, they're going to do everything they can to help, but they're being baited into a problem of mass illegal alien people coming in numbers to the numbers of millions that we're going to have to feed and clothe.
It's incomprehensible what is happening, with the whole situation.
Absolutely.
What kind of people could sit there and dream this stuff up?
Well, it looks like the Obama administration did a good job. They wrote another Wizard of Oz, and we bought into it. Thanks, Lorna. God bless you for your call. Thank you. Nice lady right there. Caller, I'm going to be right with you. Don't go away. Silver State Stampede, Nevada's oldest rodeo. The Silver State Stampede heads into Elko, Nevada, July 10, 11, and 12, right there at the Elko County Fairgrounds. Oh, my goodness, on Thursday the 10th, the big kickoff party, and all kinds of tri-tip dinners and dancing and music. And then on Friday and Saturday, PRCA Rodeo at its best. Going to be ripping good. And, of course, don't forget the Ring of Fear. Everything at the Elko County Fairgrounds. Get your tickets. You call them down there or go online. Silver State Stampede in Elko, Nevada. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Isn't it ironic that the news media, the left, and Hollywood, all of the liberals are doing everything they can to destroy the country the only country in the world where people want to immigrate. Mm-hmm. Isn't it amazing? And they're working day and night to destroy the individual freedoms, the private property rights, put us back into slavery like all of these other countries in the world pretty much possess. Individual freedom is actually a rare commodity in the history of the world, as you well know. And so everybody wants to come here, but my grandfather, of course, come over here in 1903 when the Fabian Socialists, he was from Europe and from Germany, but the Fabian Socialists had destroyed their economy much like they have here now. And he had to have good health, and he had to have a sponsor. Mm-hmm. Without either one of those, he could not have been able to come. And, of course, a lot of them that didn't have health when they got here, they were shipped back, but many of them knew there was no place to go, so they committed suicide right there in the New York harbor.
Yeah, but Adrian, each and every one of these kids, each and every one of them has a sponsor, and you know who the sponsor is? It's you and me, the American taxpayer.
Well, absolutely, and so, I heard two of those liberal pundits, Juan Williams and that Kirsten Powers, they said, we've got to be human and so forth. And I'm saying, well, all of those liberals that want to adopt one of those children, sign every one of those liberals, one of these children, to be their foster caretaker.
Absolutely.
And all of a sudden they've changed their tune. But as long as everybody else, the taxpayers, going to pick up the tab, and they're left at a remote distance, that's a whole different deal. But if you put it in that perspective, well, how many of these children do you want to take care of?
Absolutely.
They change their tune. But, Zeb, it is a real mess, and this Obama this is the most despicable use of human trafficking that can possibly be thrown upon the American people.
I agree. I've got other calls waiting in line, but I think the terminology human trafficking is absolutely very appropriate in this regard. Adrian, God bless you for your call. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you much. Caller, I'll be right with you. I promise. Don't go away, caller. I'll take your call momentarily. I want to remind you that some of the Rupert businesses are really happy and really getting in the swing of things for the Rupert 4th of July celebration, like Mad River Laser at 502 East Street in Rupert, right next door to the Idaho Youth Ranch. You better believe it. They want to make your parade banners, and if you mention my name at Mad River Laser, you're going to get 15% off your order. Well, get in there today. Nicole and the rest of the crew, they are so nice, and they're having their grand opening during the week of the 4th of July, and they got family reunion t-shirts available. Oh, my goodness. It is so fantastic. Everything they make and do is really, really first class. Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert, along with some other good folks, Magic Valley Carpet, 613 D Street in Rupert, They've got all your flooring needs, and believe me, they've got expert professional installation with over 35 years of experience in all floor coverings. Family owned and operated since 2005. The very best at Magic Valley Carpet in Rupert. Great folks celebrating the Rupert 4th of July celebration. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Make it short and sweet. All these kids that they're bringing in, send them to the White House to live with Obama, Michelle, Biden, Reid, and just leave them there. Let them support them.
You know, Dal, that's not such a bad idea. That what they ought to do, like they did with that plane that went to Massachusetts with a whole load of these kids, divert it to D.C., take them all in buses right there to the White House like they do for the Easter egg hunt and say, okay, Michelle and Barack, they're all yours. I agree with you.
Exactly what they need to do.
I agree. Dal, thank you for your call. Appreciate it. God bless you, man. I got a couple other things that are really tearing at my heartstrings this morning and making me very, very upset. There is a veteran, and I'm going to try to get this man on the air. There's a veteran in Florida that was told to take down a very small United States flag off his front porch. Now, many of the flags, United States flags, I have the same kind here in my office. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 flags in my office, United States flags. Now, this veteran had one United States flag in a flower pot on his front porch. Yep. Well, here comes the Homeowners Association. Yeah, you've heard of these stories before, haven't you? Here comes the Homeowners Association, and so far they have fined this veteran $8,000 for not taking down that small flag out of a flower pot. That's all he's got on his front porch is some flowers, some flower pots, and in one pot, a small United States flag. Well, they fined him $8,000, and they told him to, you're going to go to court if you don't take it down. He says, fine, take me to court. And now it looks like that he could even lose his home because of flying in a flower pot a little, possibly 8.5 by 11-inch American flag. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a revolution in this country. It is time for the sticking your chin out and saying enough is enough. It is time to tell the government that they've exceeded their bounds. And I am going to try to find out the name, the address, and everything of this veteran and try to send him some money for his court case and fight these idiots with this homeowners association that are trying to take apart a little flag in a flower pot flown by a veteran to this United States of America. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Talk to me. Go ahead, caller, please.
You know, I'm thinking that if that was me, if they're not making my house payments, they have no business telling me what to put on my porch, in my house, outside my house, or anything else.
Yeah, but wait a minute, Donna. These homeowners associations, they have a rule or a group of covenants or 10 commandments that they have signed prior to moving in there. But, you know, putting up an American flag as a veteran, a little flag in a flower pot, and for them to go after him and fine him $8,000, and eventually, if this thing goes to court, he might even lose his home because he doesn't have the money to fight it. I'm going to try to help this man.
Well, I would too, but you know the whole point of it is these associations. We have one. Well, we have a couple right here in Burley and Rupert that you know they decide when you can paint, what you can paint, what color, what you can plant in your yard. You know, if people don't want to live there, dadgummit, don't agree to sign that stuff. And don't move into those associations. To me, it's like a communist camp.
Absolutely, I agree with you. But our American flag, that is in my opinion, universally accepted mode of having on your property, in your window, whatever. I mean, anybody and everybody can go to extremes. You know that. I mean, you can do it to excess to the point where it could become, like with thousands of flags, a road hazard, whatever. I'm not saying that. One flag, Donna, 8.5 by 11 in size in a flower pot. Don't go there.
No, I that's what I said. I think that's totally wrong, and I hope that if they do go to court, the veteran loses. You know, the American flag should be something to be, have pride in flying.
Absolutely.
It's not an eyesore. It's showing your patriotism. And he fought for this country, for those people
Absolutely.
that are trying to make him take it down. He fought for those people.
Absolutely, so, I agree.
Yeah, it's awful. And the thing about these kids, we're being imposed on again by the administration. We need to send them all back. We can't take care of our own homeless children here in the United States. How in the Sam Hades are we going to pay to take care of these illegals coming in?
You know, interestingly enough, Donna, of all the people that I've talked to about this problem here in the Magic Valley and across the country, I have yet, whether it's male or female, I have yet to find one person, and I'm being very honest about this, that has said we should keep them, we should nurture them, we should pay for them. Every single person I've talked to has said, no, not our problem, send them home.
Yeah, I'm with the Jim Edwards that called in earlier. These are not, I can't imagine any mother, I don't care how desperate you get, I can't imagine any mother putting their child, a baby, on a bus or a plane for God knows where.
Yeah.
They must be coming in from all the orphanages or something.
I agree with you.
So we got to stop it.
I agree. Donna, thank you so much. I appreciate your call as always. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you. We've got a real problem. Well, no. We don't have a real problem singular. We have problems plural with this administration. Lawbreakers, liars, fraudulent people, fraudulent actions, going against our Constitution. That is the case specific against the Obama administration. I have never seen anything in my life that I detest more than this administration and what they've done to this country. I'll stand behind that. Time for the weather, brought to you by Burley Glass, 1029 Overland Avenue in Burley. And Burley Glass with Gentle Ben and Leslie and everybody else. Oh, my goodness, they're working hard to provide great service to all the communities in Magic Valley. And don't forget, update your windows before the cold weather comes back. And if you've got older windows without storm windows, you better check it out. All the great buys on the best of windows at Burley Glass, 1029 Overland Avenue in Burley. Here's Michael Rogers' weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Nice day in the Magic Valley neighborhood. Although you do have some clouds in the area, you're okay. You're going to be pretty nice all the way through the week. There is a slight chance of a thunderstorm on Thursday night. I'll nail that for you tomorrow. Otherwise, you got a pretty nice day. 86 for the high, 50 for the overnight low for tomorrow, 87 for the high, and 60 also for the overnight low. Have a nice day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you by our friends at Burley Glass, and they are really nice people. 1029 Overland Avenue in Burley. Michael Rogers Weather. I got to get Gina on the line here for a minute. Gina, are you right there? Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. She says, yeah. I'm watching you, buddy.
First and foremost, with the whole flag thing, it seems like over the past decade, everybody started to denigrate the flag. Now, here's my skinny on this. I've been wanting an American flag for years. Finally bought myself one to fly, in my front yard on my porch 2 weekends ago.
Yep.
I made sure that it was a Made in America flag, and I'm proud to have it. And it is huge. It is huge. And so, please, people, you know what? If you want to come to my front door and tell me that I need to take it down, I'm going to tell you you're number one in one specific way. You can't tell me that I'm not going to fly the American flag that is the symbol of our nation that so many men and women have fought for and died for.
I really want to caution people out there in the audience. This is just for your own protection, your security, and your safety. That I do know this lady very well, Gina Jameson, and I would suggest that to eradicate any possibility of having a huge dentist bill or cosmetic surgery, leave her alone.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm going to be putting up shortly a POW-MIA flag in just the same size.
Yeah.
So my front porch will be well decorated, not only in support of our military, but in support of our country. Now, for these homeowners associations that deem that you can't fly or have a flag, read the fine print, and if that's what the homeowners association says, I ain't buying it. I'm not going to move into there. It's my right to fly the American flag, and for something that stands for our country, how can they not allow you to do so?
Wow. I mean, to tell you, we put a quarter in that right out front of Kmart, and it went for 30 minutes.
and as far as these kids coming into the country, I never did, the thought never crossed my mind that they were dumping out the orphanages. And
it's a good thought, though, and it's something that needs to be looked into.
It really does. It definitely needs to be investigated because from a mother, like, other people have commented, no mother in their right mind would let their child go to a foreign country where they know nobody, they don't know the language, without some sort of supervision, because a mother's love, I'm sorry, you just can't, I would not even be letting go of my child. But for an orphanage, well, they've got so many kids, sure, just ship them out, and the kids don't know any different.
We've got, I got something else I want to mention to you real quick. And
we've got a phone call, too.
Okay, I'm going to take the call in just a second, but are you aware of a new book coming out by a gentleman by the name of Edward Klein? Have you heard about that book called Blood Feud? If you get a chance, you need to pull up some information on this book. I've had a chance to catch Edward Klein. Caller, I'm coming. Stand by. I've had a chance to catch Ed Klein talking about his new book, Blood Feud, on about 2 or 3 different network programmings. And this guy is opening himself up for a whole bunch of problems if, underline the word if, what he says in the book is not true. And I'll tell you, he goes into the Obamas, he goes into the Clintons, he goes into the animosity and hate against each other, and he said that Barack and Michelle do not even sleep in the same room. Oh, my.
Are we shocked about that?
Not really, but I'll take the caller and come back with more. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, that old glory is the life and heart of the United States of America. And I fly a big one with the POW flag under it night and day. Have done for, I don't know, forever.
I know you do, and I think of you, and I think of other great people that I know, like Russell Smith and others, that get up every morning and salute the flag, and that's one of the reasons why I will, as long as I'm on this program, I will never, underline the word never, stop having the Pledge of Allegiance as the start of our program.
That's great. I really appreciate that, Sam. And you're a great patriot, too, and I know that.
Well, it's the people like you and others that put the ultimate on the line to sacrifice for our country that I absolutely salute. And to think that our country has lost its respect and its honor of our flag, that a homeowners association would tell a man to take a little 8.5 by 11 flag out of a flower pot, that is disgusting.
By golly, I'm with you there. It brings tears to my eyes to think about the lives that were lost.
Absolutely.
Protecting that flag.
Absolutely. Fred, God bless you and Joyce. Thank you so much. I got to get a commercial in. Thank you so much. God bless. Thank you. One of my dearest friends right there, and I appreciate him. Hey, by the way, we'll take some more calls right after this. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers with easy credit plans available. 4 different plans are available for you to stop in and get the best of tires for your car, your pickup, your SUV, your horse trailers, boat trailers, whatever. All the best in tires at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And don't forget, too, maybe your car's kind of pulling a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. Maybe you need a front-end alignment. Shocks and Struts, they got the best in brake service. These folks really care. Stop in today and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You know, just a moment ago I was talking about this book by Ed Klein.
I'm reading on it right now.
Yeah, and it's going to knock your socks off. Some of the allegations...
I want to buy this book.
Oh, I do too. Some of the allegations that he makes in the book, and by the way, do I have a caller waiting?
No.
Oh, some of the allegations he makes is that the Obamas and the Clintons absolutely hate each other. That's the title, Blood Feud. And he makes a statement in there about they were at a dinner together. And Bill Clinton got up to give a speech, and Obama refused to listen to the speech. And you know what he did while he was sitting at the table? He pulled out his iPhone and was playing games underneath the tablecloth.
Well, and it just goes on, you know, I've read, just kind of briefly reading this, what they had posted in the Washington Times.
Yeah.
And President Obama had invited former President Clinton out to golf, and he's like, I'm not going to enjoy this.
Yeah.
And they just stare at each other, and it's, you know, quite awkward. And then just, you know, the chiding and the behind the scenes. And the only reason I think that they honestly deal with each other is because they each have favors to ask of each other.
That's really true, but you know, the one part of the book that is, and I don't want to give too much away, but yet I want to say that these are part of the book, and not Zeb Bell saying this, because I cannot verify what this man put in his book. But he goes in great depth to discuss really how serious Hillary Clinton's health is. She, according to him, Edward Klein, has severe heart problems, and he came right out and said that she has a right transverse venous thrombosis, or a blood clot between her brain and skull, and that caused her problem months ago when she basically fainted and had that problem of not being out in front of the public for quite some time. And he goes on and says in the book many, many times that she is not physically fit to be President of the United States. Now, the thing is, Gina, when you read this, you're going to come up with the same question I think I did. If all of this was not true, how would this man ever get away with this? And I think there's a lot of fact in these things in this book that need to be really perused and researched. And
vetted, yes. And, of course, I see that we can purchase this book, so I think I might just go ahead and purchase it.
Yeah, I am, too. As a matter of fact, I'll get a copy. Did I hear the moo of the cow? I got 30 seconds. Real fast, caller. I got to go to the news. Real fast.
Good morning, Zeb. I just wanted to bring notice to everyone who's not aware that we have a monument in Rupert for all of the fallen soldiers in the state of Idaho right here. You were at the dedication, but in May, Governor Otter gave a proclamation that flag fly at half-mast forever.
Absolutely.
And it's on 7th Street and Scott Avenue in Rupert, and it's a beautiful thing to go see.
It is.
Fabulous.
Absolutely. And Gary, I appreciate your call on that, because it is absolutely a tribute to the community and all the people, and thank you so much. I got to run to the news, running late. Zeb at the Ranch. I'll be back in 6 minutes. Don't go away. Oh, gee. Good morning. Hour number 3. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, and serving you very, very well. And, of course, some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
These are really, really nice people at Western Waste Services, and the number's so easy to remember. Call them at 734-6969. Always at your disposal, whether you need porta potties for maybe a family reunion, a company picnic, whatever, or maybe you need a dumpster. They've got them in various sizes, or the Go Mini storage units. Oh my, all of this and more at Western Waste Services. Always at your disposal. Call them at 734-6969. Don't forget, on Thursdays, it's Gardening for Idiots, named after me, because I'm not a very good gardener, but I'm learning from Miss Vicky at Vicky's Country Garden at 185 South, 600 West of Paul. Number to call, Vicky's Country Garden, 438-5663. Call in with your questions this Thursday for the lovely Miss Vicky of Vicky's Country Gardens. Also, I want to remind everybody, too, into our lives, always there are a few thunderstorms and rainstorms, and when we lose a loved one, that, of course, means we need to have somebody that we can rely on and trust. And that's, of course, our friends at Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, with owner-manager Joel Heward. Don't forget, please, that number, 436-5636. He will make himself and his staff available to help you, always with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. So please call them today, 436-5636. Joel Heward at Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. We're going to stay over in Rupert right now and visit with a man that he's always given me straight answers. I mean, you can ask him a question and he's going to look you in the eye and he's going to give you the honest truth, and that's State Senator Dean Cameron. And Dean, it's so nice to have you on the air this morning. Good morning.
Thank you, Zeb. Glad to be here.
You know what I'm going to talk about, and you know that there seems to be a lot of press and media against the Republican Party and pro-Democratic Party. They just finished their convention. In a nutshell, and I'm not going to beleaguer and waste a lot of time on this, but basically give us the status after the Republican convention, which turned out to be a fiasco. Where do you go now?
Well, I think that's a question that is yet to be answered. We're still trying to find our way. I think we're not. This is not the first time that we have disagreements within our party, and frankly, discussion and disagreement on issues is probably a good thing. Although we don't like it to blow up and boil into a situation like it did at the convention. Mm-hmm. We've had, there have been a couple of meetings called. Some have suggested those meetings have been called inappropriately or without authority. Attorneys have been involved, which is, in my book, I'm sorry to my attorney friends, but it's never a good thing. Both the state Republican Party attorney and the National Republican Party attorney has stated that Mr. Peterson is no longer the chairman. However, there was a private ruling or private attorney opinion from Chris Trupus, who was the former candidate for Attorney General. He has no official position other than he was a candidate and is an attorney, that Mr. Peterson is in charge. Mr. Peterson has changed the locks on the doors at the Republican office and fired the staff, and which is disappointing that he would take that action. And there's an executive committee that's called for August the 2nd, so we've got probably another month of this kind of stories that certainly the media will enjoy writing about and the Democrats will love hearing about. And I think it's August the 2nd. There will be a Central Committee meeting. There may be other meetings called between here or there, or other action taken between here and there. I don't know.
Dean, let's get right down to where it itches. What caused all this? I mean, what was the motivating force to have such dissension and have such bad PR? I mean, what was the scratch that caused the itch?
You know, I can't. I can tell you what my opinion is. I can't tell you. And my opinion could be wrong, but I can tell you what my opinion is, and I think it was primarily over the re-election of Mr. Peterson as party chairman. And, you know, I think obviously it was a hard-fought primary election. There were tough campaigns for the 2nd Congressional District. There was a slate of candidates proposed that, for the most part, were not successful. And their supporters and the party chairman, who were aligned, I think, decided that they needed to retain that party chairmanship. Certainly there are arguments that could be made that perhaps Ada County or Bannock County did not seat their delegates appropriately, although they would strongly argue the other direction. Mm-hmm. And when we got up to convention, at first it went from disappointment to anger to just outright disgust. Because when we got to convention, many of us were disappointed because they had not seated us on committees, and that's okay. I mean, we know that not everybody can be seated on the committee, but we would have anticipated that it be fair. And then when we saw the makeup of the committees, we realized that that it was completely skewed. And then we got word that, or at least I'm told, that Cassia County's chairman had submitted one set of names for committees, and those were not adhered to, and others were put on. And and that happened throughout the state. So it started getting more and more frustrating. And then they started removing entire delegations from their ability to vote. And that's where I think things really crossed the line. I think if the party chairman would have stood and said, yeah, look, this is the way I appointed the committees, and this is the reason I did it, and people may have not liked it, but it would at least, there would have been an explanation. He refused to do so. They refused to allow Ada County and Bannock County and Power County to vote, and I think they thought that by adjourning the committee without a vote, or by adjourning the convention without a vote, that he would remain in his position and that everybody else would remain in their position.
All right, now, you refer to he, and I want to be very explicit here. He meaning Mr. Peterson. What is Mr. Peterson's first name?
Barry.
Barry Peterson. It would seem to...
And I don't hold, Zeb, so that I'm clear, I don't hold any animosity towards Barry. He certainly has made a few mistakes along the way, but he initially started off as a reasonable chairman. I think he got sideways because he supported, which a chairman probably should not support one candidate or another in a primary election. And he made the mistake of going out and supporting specific candidates, and so the battle lines were sort of drawn.
Yeah.
And there was a formidable challenger, a well-respected business person from Blackfoot by the name of Doug Sayer, who many were supporting, including myself, because I thought he would restore a lot of credibility to the party and would be able to raise money and do the kinds of things that a party is supposed to do in order to support their candidate.
Would you agree with me, and I want to be really careful how I word this, but the Republican Party nationwide right now has every opportunity to grow, prosper, and yield forth fruit that is going to take over various offices and seats. However, they also have a penchant to self-implode because they absolutely can't get out of the way from progress. They step on their own feet. Would you agree with that?
I couldn't agree more with you, Zeb. And that's always been a little bit of a problem. I mean, if you look back on presidential races, the Democrats sort of anoint their candidate, or they'll have a little bit of a race, but it pretty well goes, they don't beat each other up like the Republicans do. You look both at this presidential race, just the one we just had 2 years ago, and one we had 6 years ago, and the candidates come out of it really, the winner comes out of it really beaten up. And there's no question that the negative campaigning, as much as I despise it and dislike it, it has an effect and it works, and people get turned off from it. And we've seen that in this last year, in this last election with the congressional race. But it has an effect to the point where average citizens who aren't involved in the party and aren't tied in or don't follow this close, all they know is, I'm not supporting that guy because of the things that are said. And we've got to figure out, the Republicans, if we want to lead again nationally, we've got to figure out a way to stop doing this to ourselves.
I agree. We have a caller with a question, Dean, and we'll take that call quickly. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, Dean. Hey, I see Jason Chaffetz from Utah and Raul Labrador. I see him in the news, hear him in the news. The Republican Party was adamant to reelect Mike Simpson. Frankly, between you and the rest of these people listening, I think he's a lump on a log, and I never hear a thing from him. The only time he ever seems to come back here is to get reelected, and we have been saddled with him for another 2 years. Tell me why we're better off with Mike Simpson than maybe the challenger, and why would the Republican Party want to perpetuate this lack of action when we have a Raul Labrador and Jason Chaffetz, who are people that we see in the news that are actively pursuing good things for the people. And I'll hang up. Thanks.
Thank you for your call. Dean, please go ahead.
Well, Zeb, I don't know that I agree with the caller. Obviously, the majority of Republicans felt that Mike Simpson was doing a better job, and I can tell you within the party, there is a divide on the job that Raul Labrador does versus Mike Simpson. Now, I can, Zeb, you and I have talked about it, and I can certainly point to the flaws, frankly, of either man, and that's just what you get when you get, I suppose, human serving in public service. Some would point to Labrador's lack of support of the Farm Bill and lack of support of the INEL, lack of support of other Idaho issues, and would point to Mike Simpson's help with delisting the wolves. That certainly was a major action on his part. They would point to Mike Simpson's help when we had the oust issue that the federal government had sprayed and had damaged so many of our farmers. Frankly, many believe that without Mike Simpson, that would not have got resolved. Now, can others point to other things the other direction? Absolutely. And, the truth is, we're past the primary. The primary is over. And Mike Simpson won the election. Raul Labrador won his election. Those are two congressional candidates. And as a party, if we're not smart enough to get behind them, and the same whether we're talking about Governor Ott or others, we're bound to lose some of those in the general election to Democrat challengers.
All right, now
the last time we had this kind of a feud, Jim Risch was back before 1978, and at that time we lost the governor's race and the governor's office, and we lost it, I think, then for 26 years.
But you have something else that you have to overcome, though, and it's not necessarily the infighting of the party. And caller, don't go away. I'll get right with you, but I want Dean to give me a short answer on this. You've also got a problem with the media. Right here in Magic Valley, you've got a problem with the media, i.e. the Times News. You've got an image problem, and each and every member of the media seems to relish the fact that you've got infighting, or maybe there's this bickering going on, and they seem to embellish it, in other words, to help the Democratic Party here in the state. How do you overcome that image?
Well, first of all, I think, and I'll try to be short. I think, first of all, the media is always biased that way, And I think the media wants to sell newspapers and wants to sell advertising, and so they want to gin up that contentious race between the Republicans and the Democrats, and they frankly want the Democrats to be more, what's the right word, more sellable. And so there's some of that we can't overcome, but we can certainly do our job. I think by and large most citizens lean Republican if they're not completely Republican. But I think a lot of Idahoans like to vote for the person. And so they will, I think that's why some of them are so upset with the closed primary. And so that's where we have to be real careful, and we do have an image problem, and that's why this has to get resolved. And frankly, Raul Labrador could have done a lot towards resolving this at the convention. He did not do that. He did not step into the breach and say, look, both sides need to get along. He did not do that. And he was the one person who probably could have made that happen.
All right, we have a caller with a question. Go ahead, please. You're on the air.
Yeah, Dean, I couldn't vote for Mike Simpson because of his voting record. 46% isn't good enough for me.
Sure. And that's under, Zeb and Fred, that's certainly understandable. There are a lot of people that feel exactly that same way. The question that I think goes back to the previous caller, to Randy's call, was whether or not the candidate that ran against Mike, Mr. Smith, who, by the way, was at the convention for the first time, and I don't know how many years, or at least that I recognized, and he was right in the middle of removing Ada County and Bannock County and Power County from office. So whether that helps him or hinders him, that'll, I guess, be on people's opinion. I think what it boiled down to is people were more comfortable, in spite of that voting record, were more comfortable with Mr. Simpson than they would be with Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith would not have had the seniority, would not have had the connections that Mr. Simpson has, and would not have been able to help solve problems that real Idahoans come up with.
Dean, I want to just bring up one thing in the time remaining, and we've been friends for a long time. I think that the strong suit for the Republican Party, whether it's here in the state or whether it's nationwide, is a family values platform. If they change that or go away from it, I think you're going to see them go the same way as the Democrats as far as not being acceptable and palatable to most people that are my age or a little bit younger. The headline in the paper of the Times News the last couple of days said, Idaho Dems say that opportunity knocks. Well, the reason the Democrats are not getting elected to various posts is because of the national platform, their stand on gay rights, etc. And that's where I think, regardless of the infighting in the Republican Party, the Republicans still are going to show a strong suit is because of the platform. Am I right or wrong?
Zeb, you're right. I would add one other issue to that besides the moral issues, whether you're talking about gay rights or abortion, those issues. I also think that when it comes down to fiscal responsibility, balancing the state budget and running the state's budget in an appropriate manner, the Republicans are heads above the Democrats. The Democrats show time and time again that they would be irresponsible with their spending. Now, I've got good Democrat friends, and so some of them are just as conservative in many ways, but for the most part, that is the argument that we always face at the state level, and we certainly face it at the federal level. So between the moral issues and the fiscal issues, I think you're right. But we really miss the boat as a party if we don't show that we can be unified. And
Absolutely.
There are races that are potentially, we could potentially lose if we're not careful here.
All right, we've only got 2 minutes left, and caller, I'm going to give you just 30 seconds. That's all. Go ahead, real fast.
Okay, one statement that was made there is Simpson has the power, and that is the problem. This country is in the position we're in because of people like Simpson that get in there and get the power, and you need to look at their net worth when they take office. And after 3 and 4 terms, what their net worth becomes as a public servant job. That's this country's in the position we're in because of incumbents. Thank you.
All right, Dean, respond quickly. I've only got a minute left, real fast.
Certainly, that argument can be made, and certainly, I don't know whether Mr. Simpson's net worth is increased or not, but I would not think it has appreciably, but it could be, and I certainly could be shown that. The whole system is set up, however, that when you take office, you work your way through the chairs, you become chairman, you become and members of leadership, and you work your way. And frankly, we want individuals that can go back there and be effective, not just people that go back there and vote no or put a rock on their no button and don't do things to help Idahoans. And so, I mean, from my perspective, I want a congressman that will go back there and service. He will be responsive to his constituents, and I know some will argue that Congressman Simpson hasn't, and I understand that. I'm really trying to keep from being in a position of necessarily defending him all the time.
I understand.
but he did win the primary, and I personally do believe he was the better candidate.
All right, well, listen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call you after the program, if not today, tomorrow, and we're going to try to make this kind of a weekly, if we can, kind of a rehash of what's going on not only in the state but also across the United States. Senator Dean Cameron, I really appreciate you being on our program this morning. The very best to you, and I'll be in touch after the show.
Thanks so much, Zeb.
God bless. Thank you. And appreciate all the calls and the questions, too. Thank you very much. Hey, don't forget, Rupert's 4th of July celebration is going to be July 1st all the way through July 5th. Oh, my goodness. And the theme this year of the Rupert 4th of July celebration is Let Freedom Ring. And ring it will over at Rupert. My goodness, they're going to kick things off with that Christmas in July breakfast at 6 in the morning at the City Park right there on July 1st. And then entertainment every single day that'll knock your socks off. Fireworks displays, and of course, don't forget the Firecracker 500 lawnmower races at the fairgrounds on July 3rd. Family rodeo at the fairgrounds on July 4th at 8 p.m. And like I said, entertainment, food booths, all of this and much, much more. Celebrating Rupert's 4th of July celebration. Let Freedom Ring. Don't you miss any of the fun over in Rupert. It's going to be outstanding. I also want to remind you about our friends at Let's Ride. Oh, boy, they've got summer hours, and they are busy. They're open Monday through Saturdays, 9 to 6 at Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. It is where the fun is sold. Man, oh man, they've got all the ATVs, just row after row after row of ATVs over on the showroom floor. Can-Am side-by-sides, really great deals, rebates and great financing. They've got dirt bikes, and oh my gosh, they've got the best service department anywhere, the best you'll find. Absolutely. All of this and more going on with a store where you can have fun all the time outside by stopping into Let's Ride, where the fun is sold. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. Got a couple of public service announcements. Don't forget, coming up at the South Freedom Park in Burley, and this is going to be on Saturday, June 28th. Don't forget the first annual Iron Kilt Festival. Whoa, this is really going to be great with Scottish Highland Games, Scottish and Celtic dancers, great food, all of this and more at the first annual Iron Kilt Festival. Everybody try to be there. Let's see, I got to get this in here real quick. I also want to remind you about our friends at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. They're having their 67th anniversary spectacular. No money down, no interest, and I'll tell you what, you can get complete rooms made simple. Got a vacant room in your house? Just build a brand new house, just did all the remodeling, and you want to have brand new furniture and all the accessories? They've got it right there at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. Along with all the furniture, they've got all the carpeting, all the different carpeting to beautify your home, and for a good night's sleep, don't forget all the mattresses. Absolutely the best. And the people that know. Stop in and see them today at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More 67th Anniversary Spectacular at 459 Overland in Burley. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. We'll be going to the phone in just a moment and having our guest with us for this half hour. I want to remind you, too, we just talked to Dean Cameron a moment ago, and he is part of Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Whether it's your life insurance, your health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, those are items that you really need to take the time and sit down with a professional to make sure that you are covered. Absolutely. Number to call for an appointment, 436-4424. Dean Cameron, Todd Siemens. Very accessible and devoted to serving others at Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Highway 24 in Rupert. That number again, 436-4424. Well, we have a guest on the program right now that I'm looking forward to this conversation. This gentleman is a clinical professor of law and director of the Securities Law Clinic at Cornell University Law. He's a 1981 graduate of Hamilton College and an 84 graduate of the Harvard Law School. And he publishes a lot of papers, and he wrote one just recently about Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker. And I'd like to introduce right now Mr. William Jacobson. And good morning, sir. How are you?
Great. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Really nice to have you on. And I got to kid you a little bit because this is kind of a rarity. In the bio that they sent me, they said, today, conservative Cornell University law professor. Is there such a thing as a conservative law professor or professor of any type in our university system nowadays?
Well, I think you're talking to him.
Okay.
It's unusual, let's put it that way. I think there's probably more conservative professors out there than you think, but mostly they try to keep their heads down and stay quiet about it.
Why is that, Bill, if you don't mind me calling you by your first name, but why is it that today on university campuses, being a conservative is almost like being a wolf guarding the hen house?
Well, I think that there's a culture on campuses, and it's not every single campus, but it's a lot of them, where the faculty is extremely liberal, where the administrators are extremely liberal, and where a lot of the most vocal student groups are extremely liberal, and they just don't tolerate open dissent very well.
Now, you wrote an article, and I thought it was very well done, regarding Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker. And Wisconsin is the state where I was born and raised. I went to college back there, etc. And I think that Governor Walker has done an outstanding job. He's been very forthright, but boy, the left hates him. Tell us a little bit about why you think he's got a target on his back.
Sure. Well, the progressive movement in Wisconsin particularly has always had it out for Scott Walker. I think maybe they recognized in him a potential that I think is becoming realized for pretty straightforward leadership from a conservative, middle-right conservative angle. And so really when he ran for governor in 2010, they started to, almost view that as an offense right there. And that's when these investigations of him began to start, what they call in Wisconsin John Doe investigations. It's an unusual procedure where it's almost like a secret grand jury, but it's even worse because they don't have to actually have reasonable belief that you committed a crime. It's a much broader investigatory tool, and it's all secret. And in fact, the targets of it are not even allowed to speak publicly about the fact that they're targeted. So in 2010, he got elected governor, and they were very upset about that because he, was going to be a center-right sort of governor. And then they went ballistic in 2011 when the legislature passed and he signed the public collective bargaining law, which didn't eliminate it completely but scaled it back very dramatically. And you may recall that protesters took over the State House. They had, camped out there overnight. There were threats against legislators. There were threats against Walker. They did everything they could to try to get that reversed, and they tried to block the hearings. They shouted people down. For a month or more, it was just total mayhem. And he didn't back down, and neither did the legislature. And they passed this reform of collective bargaining, which has seriously impacted the power of some of the public sector unions. And so that right there elevated him to national status as somebody that not only in Wisconsin but nationally they wanted to remove from the political process. And then what they did is they tried to recall him. They had a whole new election a year later where they were going to try to recall him, and that election itself was very contested. Money poured in from Democratic and progressive groups all around the country. They were sure they were going to finally get him and get him out of office. And he won again. Mm-hmm. And so he's a guy who has survived multiple onslaughts by not just progressives in Wisconsin, but really nationally. And that's when we got into what they call John Doe number 2, which has been in the news lately and what was the topic of my article.
You know, let me ask you something. There was a part of the article that I did not understand, and I want you to be explicit and explain it to my audience, and I'm going to quote it. It says, neither the persons who are the focus of the investigation nor persons subpoenaed are permitted to disclose to others any information about the existence or conduct of the investigation. Now, I'm a little bit in the dark on that. Please explain that to me, Bill.
Sure. In the Wisconsin law, and this is a law that's been around for over a century, but it's really only recently that it's been used in such a political manner. Under that law, everything about the investigation is secret. So if you have your records subpoenaed, you're not allowed to tell anybody that your records were subpoenaed. If you are hauled in to give testimony, you're not allowed to tell anybody that you gave testimony. Literally, it is an offense against the law to even mention that this investigation exists. It's almost like a star chamber proceeding, that there's this whole proceeding going on, and it's involving the court system as well, because the judge has to approve subpoenas and so on, and you can't even talk about it. So no matter how outrageous the conduct is, you're not supposed to talk about it. And in this case, in what I've referred to as John Doe number 2, where they tried to get Walker and other people for supposedly violating the campaign finance laws by cooperating with each other, outside groups in the campaign. People's homes were raided. Literally, in the crack of dawn, not troops, but SWAT teams and so on showed up and raided people's houses and seized records and seized computers, and cell phones records were subpoenaed and all of that. And those people subjected to that legally were not allowed to talk about it. And so it was a very, very strange proceeding. And this all became public because one person chose to say, well, I'm not going to put up with this, and went to the Wall Street Journal and published what was going on in the Wall Street Journal. And, to date, no action's been taken against him. And, in fact, his position's been vindicated in court. But the point is, it took a brave soul to say, I am not going to abide by this ridiculous secrecy provision and allow all of these raids and records being subpoenaed and people essentially being shut out of the political process for fear of prosecution. I'm not going to tolerate it, and went public with it. And then once it went public, then it got a lot more attention, and that was, several months ago.
Bill, I'm sitting here, and like I said, my family still lives back in Wisconsin, the bulk of my family. And everybody that I've talked to that I know, whether it's friends or family, they're very high on Scott Walker because of what he's done to take the state from being deeply in the red into a black situation, a profitable situation. And it looks like the left, absolutely, you got to give the left a little credit because they're looking at almost a squeaky clean record, but they're trying to put a blemish on it come hell or high water, are they not?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the problem with these John Doe investigations. The first one was leaked to the public, and that was tried to use that against him during the recall election, that, look, he's subject to this investigation, and I remember covering it. And every day the left-wing blogs would say, we're just waiting for the shoe to drop, we're waiting for him to get arrested, we're waiting, and he ended up being cleared completely. There were some lower-level people in his county executive office who sent a few emails that he wasn't even involved in, which were campaign activity, and they've gotten in trouble, but no evidence that he had any involvement in that. And then they start John Doe number 2, which is to say that he violated the campaign finance laws, and those have gone nowhere. In fact, 2 judges have ruled that if everything the government claimed he did was true, it wasn't a violation of the campaign finance laws. And even if it were, those finance laws would be unconstitutional. So he's been completely vindicated by 2 judges so far. But when you read the media reports, all you hear is prosecutors accused him of being involved in a criminal scheme. And that's the headlines. And so these things are used to taint him, to try to create this aura of criminality, when in fact they've been going after him for multiple years and have not been able to find anything he's done wrong. And in fact, 2 judges who've ruled on it have said even the current investigation has nothing to it. I mean, it's one of the judges, the state court judge, refused to issue the subpoenas the government wanted, saying, I'm not going to issue these subpoenas in a case where you're not even alleging a criminal violation. What you're alleging is perfectly permissible campaign activity. And in a second case, a federal judge completely shut down the investigation, said what you're trying to do, government, is to chill conservative voices in Wisconsin by making 10 or 15, I forget the exact number, of people subject to this proceeding, even though they've done nothing wrong, they've done nothing illegal. And what you're doing is you're effectively freezing them out of the political process. Nonetheless, if you read the headlines, if you read the left-wing websites, all you're going to see is Scott Walker being investigated, Scott Walker subject to claims of criminal schemes, and that works its way into the public consciousness, even though it's not true.
The only thing that right now Scott Walker is guilty of, according to everything I've been reading, everything I've been told, everything I've studied, is the fact that he did ruffle the feathers of the SEIU and other union forces. And you know as well as I do, Bill, once you ruffle the feathers of the unions, they're going to come after you till heck freezes over.
That's right. I mean, he committed what to them is a very serious offense, because the public sector unions, not just in terms of voting, even more than voting, in terms of monetary contributions, are enormously important to Democrats nationally. And what he did is he essentially gave school districts and he gave others the right to be free from those public sector unions, and he gave the union employees the right to be free from the union. And we know what happens when people have the choice whether or not to join the union. When it's not something that's compelled, they tend not to join. And what's happened is the teachers union, one of the main teacher unions in Wisconsin, statewide teacher unions, had to essentially lay off most of its staff because people weren't joining. When given the choice between joining and not joining, they said, well, I'll keep my $800 a year rather than contributing it as dues. And so it's been a very, very damaging to a very core operation of Democratic politics, going beyond voting, going to the money issue.
Let me ask you one final thought here, Bill, in regards to Scott Walker and the possibility, underline that word, of he running for president of the United States in 2016. A speculative question. You've seen the dirtiness that they can perform on behalf of the unions, and like I said, he's ruffled those feathers. How much worse can they get if he does throw his hat in the ring for 2016?
Oh, well, it's already gone there. A prominent publication called The New Republic, which used to be a more centrist sort of paper, but it was bought by a high-tech executive and now is very liberal, ran a cover story, I think it was within the last week or two, accusing him of being a racist. Accusing him of his political power being based upon racism in Wisconsin. And that was the headline. And so that's where they're going to go with him. I mean, that's where they go with any conservative politician, even though it's not true. So, yeah, that's where it's going to go. They'll portray him as a criminal who just hasn't been caught. They'll portray him as a racist. They'll portray him as anti-worker. They'll throw everything at him. And they're already doing it, even though we're 2.5 years away from presidential election and probably a good year away from when he would even get involved.
Naive question here, Bill. Last thought for this morning on this topic. But as you study what's going on with Scott Walker and politics in general, and you look at, they've already basically given her the crown as queen, and that's Hillary Clinton on the left. What about the Republicans? What about conservatives? How can they drum up enough interest prior to 2016 to sway the vote and put a conservative Republican in office in 2016? What do they have to do?
Well, I wish I had the answer to that. The way things are set up now, it's a huge hill to climb because the media will back whoever the Democratic candidate is. It doesn't matter who the candidate is. And so we start at a huge disadvantage that national media is against us. And that's a very powerful force. That's a very, how to frame the debate and how to frame individuals and how to smear individuals. Look what, they did to Romney. They dug up things from 40, 50 years ago when he was a kid, and used that against him. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very tough, and I wish I had the answer to your question. I don't, other than to just keep pushing forward and try to create our own media counter-narratives, which we're getting better at, but there's still, say what you want about the New York Times and the Washington Post, they can drive a narrative, and because they get picked up in a lot of local papers which just republish their stuff, and it's a tough battle. So I wish I had the answer for you. I just don't worry about it. I think you just do the best you can and you just keep pushing forward.
Absolutely. I've absolutely enjoyed the conversation, and I certainly hope you'll come back. Conservative Cornell University law professor and legal and political expert Bill Jacobson, the very best to you, sir. Thank you for your time, and I will be in touch again in the future. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you very much.
You bet. Have a great day. Thank you. Very nice individual and very informed about what's going on in politics, telling us about Scott Walker, governor of Wisconsin, and how the left is out to really impugn his character. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Want to remind you, the Silver State Stampede down in Elko, Nevada, July 10, 11, and 12. Don't forget, it is going to be ripping fun for everyone. We're going to be down there. I look forward to it every year. And, of course, on July 10th, the kickoff party, and that's going to be right there at the Elko County Fairgrounds. And then on the 11th and 12th, the PRCA Rodeo, all the nation's top cowboys coming into Elko. And don't forget the Ring of Fear. Oh, my, where local cowboys go head-to-head with one big bad bull. Going to be a good night. You better believe it. And then dances, live music, everything else at the Silver State Stampede in Elko, Nevada at the Elko County Fairgrounds, July 10, 11, and 12. Everybody be there. Holy cow, I forgot the weather. We've got to get the weather on here, and it's sponsored this hour by Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Don't forget all the guns, all the ammo, and all the accessories with all the knowledgeable people right there at Red's Trading Post with Ryan and the rest of the crew. 203 5th Avenue South, 733-3546. Right now, here is Michael Rogers' weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Nice day in the Magic Valley neighborhood. Although you do have some clouds in the area, you're okay. You're going to be pretty nice all the way through the week. There is a slight chance of a thunderstorm on Thursday night. I'll nail that for you tomorrow. But otherwise, you got a pretty nice day. 86 for the high, 50 for the overnight low for tomorrow, 87 for the high, and 50 also for the overnight low. Have a nice day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
There you go. MichaelRogersWeather.com. Red's Trading Post bringing you the weather this hour by 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls, 733-3546. Gina, are you there?
I is.
Yeah, I thought maybe you were gone. Remember yesterday we were talking about the scholarships for video games?
Yes.
I did a little bit more research on it, and I found out that Robert Morris University is offering up to, now listen to this, $19,000 in scholarships for people to be accepted into their video e-sport gaming and represent the college on their team. You might get a $19,000 scholarship.
Ooh, so that would pay for a year and a half?
I don't know. but the thing is, they're calling it a sport. They're calling it an e-sport, and they're forming a league with other universities that possibly will also offer other scholarships. My question to you is this. You know, I believe in sports scholarships because it creates invitation for a lot of kids that are borderline students possibly, and those that are coming from maybe families that just don't have all the means, etc., and it gives them a chance to show their prowess in athletics and also get a good college education. I definitely believe in good scholarship programs for academics. But now, here we have scholarships given for video game playing, and I draw the line there and think it's a total frivolous waste of time and money.
Well, you know, after we talked about this yesterday, I sat back and thought about it, and you know, they do give out chess scholarships.
But to me, that is more challenging for the mind. I can maybe buy a chess scholarship, but here's the problem I have with these esports games. Guess what they're doing and what they're competing for? They're using killing game videos as the subject for the sport.
See, that I wouldn't choose. I do know, and not that I'm in support of this, but some of the video games that you play out there are very mentally aggressive, i.e. you do have to think on your feet fast. And then, of course, your fingers have to correlate your fast thinking. Do I think that they need to be giving out scholarships for this? No, I really don't. I think it's frivolous. But, you know, if they give out scholarships for chess, why not?
You know, and I would be the last to criticize you on your opinion there, because I know there's a gray area there, but I'm just saying that in this day and age with money being very hard to come by, and we've got a society, here's where I'm coming from. We've got a society that isn't doing anything. We have a society that would rather sit down and ignore other people, ignore conversation, ignore, contributing to society by getting involved, and we're going to sit them in a chair and enhance this thought even more by creating scholarships for them to be tied into a little game machine that they work with their thumb. That bothers me.
Welcome to what the Internet created.
I agree. But, you know, I still can't say that it's right.
It's not right, but welcome to what the Internet created. We have created this society.
But, you know, the introversion, is that a word? I'm going to use it anyway. Introversion of our society into themselves instead of being extroverted to helping other people, talking to other people, stopping somebody on the street and saying, hey, how are you and the kids doing, you know, and everything. I've seen videos of people literally in Washington and New York walking into light poles while they're playing these stupid games.
Yep, and we created this society. The invention of the Internet created this society. We did it ourselves.
Yeah.
Period.
But now, just think of how much more it's going to be enhanced if other schools, other universities, other city and state colleges pick up on this and offer scholarships. Are we going to create a problem or what?
Oh, probably so. And here's the one thing that kind of gets me. Okay, they give out scholarships for these kind of things. Where are they getting the money for the scholarships? They're probably getting it from the federal government to award with their scholarship program. So technically, you know, the taxpayers are paying for these kind of frivolous gaming scholarships.
Or would you agree with this? Possibly the money coming from the video games themselves.
Corporate sponsorship, which is not new to the collegiate scene.
Yeah, but you know, when I heard and I read that the video gaming is going to be regarding death situations, where the art of winning the game or obtaining a scholarship is how many lives you can take in the video game. I don't know.
I'm not down with that. And first and foremost, I'm really not down with the violence in video games, because that creates kind of a violent alternate reality. Yeah. And if we learn anything from our past history, country and we listen to the news and we watch what's going on and all of these kids with the messed up mentalities because of these violent video games, why would we be putting out a scholarship specifically for that? I think that's ludicrous.
Why do we need to have them concentrate on video games and the gaming and the violence and everything? All they would have to do is just put a tape on of the 6 o'clock news, and there'd be plenty that they could use right there as material.
Amen. Amen. I think that they could probably be using this money so much in a lot of better ways instead of e-gaming scholarship.
You know what we ought to do? Earlier we were talking about this book by Edward Klein called Blood Feud. And I'm going to get a copy of the book. You said you're going to get a copy of the book. Yes. What we ought to do is you and I should start reading the same books, maybe 1 or 2 books a month. And we ought to have our bi-monthly book report, and we ought to talk about it to see the difference of opinion over very controversial books that are out in front of the public.
I'll do once a month, but not 2 or 3 books a month. I don't read that much.
Oh, I read every night.
I hate reading. You
do?
That's what I do for a living, so therefore I hate it.
Yeah, well, I guess you're right, but I enjoy a good book. I got to tell you real quick, I'm reading a book you're going to laugh at. Have you ever watched Duck Dynasty?
Once or twice.
Okay, you know Jace, the one that's real poker-faced and has a good sense of humor?
Yeah.
He just finished a book called Good Call. It is one of the most Christian, one of the most thought-provoking books I've read in a long time. Very, very pro-family, very, very pro-American, very, very pro-family values and ethics. And you wouldn't think it that way by looking at the family, you know, and their dress and everything. Wow. I mean, I was very impressed with the book, and I think if you get a chance, you ought to read that book.
What's the name of the book again?
Good Call.
Good Call.
Yep.
Okay.
I got to run to the news. run. Now, there's an oxymoron for you. And coming up next hour, we got Dr. History at 10:06, and then my old buddy, I emphasize the word old buddy, Dave Beagle, back in Indianapolis, Indiana, is going to be on at 10:30. All of this and much, much more. Zeb at the Ranch on a Tuesday. Everybody stay tuned. We got a lot of things cooking for one more hour on Zeb at the Ranch right here on KBAR. Oh, holy cow, I was busy. I wasn't paying attention. Good morning, hour number 3. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, and all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, and they are Lease Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Get rid of your garbage, 734-6969. We are going to have our guest with us in just a moment, but first and foremost, I want to remind you about 2 of our sponsors for Cassia County School Days right here on Zeb at the Ranch at about 12 minutes after 10 on Thursdays. Don't forget A Child's World. They're having their 11th annual Everything for Babies and Toddlers sale. It's going to end on July 5th, and if you're taking a road trip, they have all the activities. Keep children busy in the car at A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. And also the other sponsor of Cassia County School Days is the Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Drive in Burley. If you have knee pain, hand pain, numbness, planning cataract surgery, whatever the procedure, be sure and check with them at the Ambulatory Surgery Center in Burley, right across from the hospital. Call 677-8888, 677-8888 to get the information you need. Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World, bringing you Cassia County School Days. Also, real fast, I want to remind you about the Chadwick Sports Grill. Ooh, good eating at 139 West Main in Burley. Today, the special is, listen to this one and gallop on over there, pork and apple sandwiches. That is delicious, with choice of potato and super salad for just $9.95. Pork and apple sandwiches sounds great at the Chadwick Sports Grill. Nice people, great menu, and you're going to love the food at the Chadwick Sports Grill. Well, ladies and gentlemen, lo and behold, look who we found lurking outside with a quill pen in one hand and a book in the other, taking notes. Here he is, Dr. History.
Good morning, Zeb. How you doing this morning?
How's my buddy?
I'm doing great.
Well, good. What's cooking in the world of historical facts?
Well, as you think about the events of the West that really helped carve out the West, there's a few very, very important things that happened. And one of the most important things was the gold rush.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
So that's what we're going to talk about here is the California gold rush and basically what it kind of spread out to be.
Did we ever have a gold rush here in the state of Idaho?
Not as much as, say, Colorado, Montana, Nevada, California. But, yeah, there was definitely gold mines, lots and lots of gold mines in Idaho.
Okay. We had...
Not really what you'd call well, there was kind of minor gold rushes. Anytime gold was discovered on this creek or that creek or this valley or whatever, yeah, they would swoop in and so kind of... There's the major gold rushes and then kind of the minor gold rushes.
No, we were better known for the potato rushes.
That's right.
Okay.
Golden potatoes.
There you go.
So, well, those fateful words, gold discovered, and this on the South Fork of the American River there in California actually set off one of the largest human avalanches since the Crusades swooped over the Holy Land. I mean, by the fall of 1848, over 10,000 men were chasing the dream of El Dorado, over there in the foothills of the Sierra Nevadas. And by 1849, more than 30,000 men sailed to California, while another 41,000 just went overland. Well, within a dozen years, there would be 400,000 miners looking for that elusive pot of gold. So, but, gold fever swept the nation, and everyone wanted in on it. Or at least they wanted to read about it. So newspapers, even so-called respectable papers, they tried to outdo each other with competition, printing, you could say, some fantastic stories. Interestingly enough, some were actually true or based on truth. But nevertheless, whatever the story, it all fueled that lust for a quick fortune. And one paper's lead article told about a hungry hunter who shot a bear, and as the bear tumbled over a small cliff and landed on a ledge, well, when the hunter went to retrieve his bear, he looked up the wall and saw a wide vein of quartz sandwiching a rich vein of pure gold. And again, that's one of those stories you gotta kind of take with a grain of salt. But another paper wrote about a claim making $40,000 a day. So a newspaper's bread and butter stories were really the first-hand accounts, and they were taken a lot of times from letters of people that they sent back east to their families. So, in fact, here's a couple of samples. One headline said, "My little girl has made $25 a day panning for gold. My income is $150 a day on my claim." Or, "I took $1,000 from one panful." So you can imagine if you're back east and you're reading these headlines, I mean, and you're only making a couple of dollars a day, you're going to think pretty hard about heading west.
Absolutely.
So, but, however, simply getting to the gold fields was at least half the problem, both by sea and overland, and these were dangerous journeys. Those who couldn't wait for spring and had the money, they hopped on whatever ship was available, and they could sail around the Horn for San Francisco, which was actually about an 18,000-mile trip. Or a traveler could get off in Panama, which cut the trip in half, but he also added the risk of tropical diseases, malaria, stuff like that, in addition to the risk of traveling by mule and canoeing across the isthmus and then hoping to catch another ship onto California. And, I've got to admire these guys. I've had people tell me about going around the Cape there in a cruise ship, and the water, I guess, can get so rough that half the crew is sick. So I don't envy those guys in a sailing ship going around there.
How long did it take, time-wise? What was it, about a 3-month tour?
I think it was. 18,000 miles, from New York all the way around. So,
holy smokes.
3 to 4 months. And like I say, if they got off at Panama, and if a ship stopped in Panama on the western side, they had to just hope that they had enough room to throw another guy on board. So it was a risk.
Once you made the commitment to go on this trip, really, you were really making a commitment.
Right. And like I say, sometimes they would actually wait for months down there in Panama because there might be ship after ship come by, but they may not have enough room for you.
Yeah, that's true.
So, But like I say, the sea journeys, they were quite rough. And in the hopes of making a large profit, a lot of these captains and ship owners filled every corner of their vessels. So supplies were literally worth their weight in gold, but, greedy owners, they would not turn down cash-paying customers, and food and water on these voyages were bad. There was a lot of sickness because of the overcrowding. And I don't know if you've ever been seasick, Zeb, but I just can't imagine being on a crowded ship and then going up and down out on the ocean.
Oh, I have. As a matter of fact, first time I really had seasickness, we were on a whale watching tour in a relatively small little dinghy, and for some reason sitting out there going up and down on the ocean.
I've done that, and it's no fun.
I wanted to go home real fast.
Yes, I agree with that. Now, so that was bad enough. Now, going overland was probably more dangerous. In fact, in April of 1849, they had a really bad cholera epidemic that hit a lot of the wagon trains. So besides the disease, of course, there were the physical elements of wagon travel, broken wheels, flooded rivers, the steep mountains, your animals dying on you, and then, of course, trying to restock your supplies, and then, of course, always the threat of Indians. So now, while it did become kind of a mass migration, the beginnings of the California gold rush were a little more humble. I mean, the gold fever concept was really one of the more successful advertising campaigns in Western history, pushed by both business and governments. Without this kind of extra help, there still would have been a gold rush, but it may not have been quite such a national obsession. And so often happens, the men who were responsible for the discovery of gold in California really didn't capitalize on their discovery. Now, the one guy that everybody's heard about is John Sutter. Mm-hmm. And, he'd knocked about in the far west for nearly 10 years before he decided to settle down and carve out his own empire in California. So he built a nice home on a rich section of land in the Sacramento Valley. And this was about, 1830, right in there. So he was close to the Sacramento and American rivers. Now, he was a pretty cautious man, so he actually constructed a fort. It was called Fort Sutter. And within a few years, his settlement kind of thrived and grew. He built a mill, a tannery, a winery. He planted wheat in the fields. He developed herds on the pasture lands, and he hired local Indians to work for him. And this guy was from Switzerland. He was a Swiss guy, and he made a really nice, comfortable living, fairly prosperous, and he raised enough for his own needs, and then he sold whatever extra he had to other settlers. Well, after about 10 successful years, Sutter had prospered to the point where he needed a lumber mill to provide materials for his expansion plans. Well, besides, it would be good business, so he could make a small fortune selling his lumber to his neighbors. So since Fort Sutter was built on the plains, there was very little usable lumber right around there. So Sutter knew of several good places to cut timber. So he didn't have time to do the work himself, so he hired a guy by the name of Marshall. Now, he sent Marshall to scout out locations for this new mill, and with Sutter's blessings, Marshall decided the best location was about 40 miles to the northeast on what they call the South Fork of the American River. Now, according to their agreement, Sutter would underwrite the costs of the mill, and Marshall would run the day-to-day operation. Well, by the end of the summer, Marshall had broken ground for the operations on the site. He built a cabin, he built the lumber mill building, and a small dam. Well, so January 24th, 1848, Marshall was walking down the ditch looking at his handiwork when he noticed some pieces of yellow flake. Well, he got a tin plate, he went down to the river to pan the contents. Well, it didn't take him very long to see that he had some color in his panning. Mm-hmm. And he thought this was kind of curious. So that night, he opened the gate on the dam, ran some water through the ditch again. The next morning, he shut off the gate, let the ditch dry out, and again walked down this ditch and found a piece of gold half the size of a pea. Now, that may not sound very big, but really, it was, fairly substantial.
Absolutely.
Well, he called his men over and he showed them, and by now he was kind of getting a little excited, as you can imagine, when you talk about gold fever. And in fact, he says, "My eye was caught by something shining in the bottom of the ditch. I reached my hand down and picked it up, and it was gold, no question." So after kind of collecting himself, he rode off to Fort Sutter in a pounding rainstorm, and Marshall explained the situation to Sutter behind closed doors, and he asked if he could test the nuggets and the dust. Well, he showed Sutter his poke of pouring out a handful of this gold dust and little tiny nuggets. And anyway, Sutter inspected the gold and performed some tests to make sure that it really was gold. And several days later, Sutter rode out to the mill to take a look at the find for himself. Now, he told the men to keep the discovery private. Well, you know how that goes. And while he considered what to do. Well, he went to the local Indians and he bought up the land all around the mill for practically nothing because he anticipated what was going to happen. Well, there's a man by the name of Sam Brannan. Now, keep this guy in mind a little bit. He's kind of an entrepreneur, and he had an eye for business. Well, Sam Brannan established a flour mill and started a newspaper called the California Star, and this was the first newspaper in San Francisco. Well, when he heard about the gold strike, he planned to capitalize. He wasn't interested in picking or panning. He felt the biggest profit could be realized by outfitting and selling to the miners. And we know from past stories that that's where a lot of people really made their money, was mining the miners, so to speak. Well, Brannan started by opening up a store near Sutter's mill, which he stocked with food and picks and shovels and pans and all the gear that a miner needed to work. And gold in California was nothing new. Claims had been filed from time to time with some success. For example, in Los Angeles, there had been a gold strike, but just didn't make the headlines like this one did. Well, this Brannan guy, he did his best to publicize the find. He promoted the discovery. He walked through San Francisco waving his hat for folks to gather around, and he held up a bottle of nuggets and dust, shouting, "Gold, gold," and well, by June, the rush was on in that region, and nearly all of Sutter's workers deserted him to go dig for gold. And accounts say that San Francisco nearly became a ghost town because every man who could pick up a shovel was heading for the foothills to get rich. Well, in August, the military governor, Colonel Mason, made an official tour of the gold fields. And he figured that more than 4,000 men were working the fields, and the number was growing, and they suggested that some of the best claims were producing $30,000 to $50,000 a day.
Wow.
So, back in that day, 1848, 49, 30,000 to 50,000 a day. So
I have a question here, though. I have a question. Okay. Why in the world, and I'm sure this has struck you while you were doing your research on the gold fields and everything, why wouldn't the people that found gold keep their mouths shut and want more of it for themselves?
Time and time again, I've seen that. They just can't keep their mouths shut.
Yeah.
Typically, they head to town and have a few drinks, and pretty soon they're telling everybody everything.
And then you have your great...
A lot of times end up dead.
There you go. Yeah.
So, but anyway, this gold strike was a really good thing. President James Polk was president then, and they'd recently had the Mexican War, and California was one of the acquisitions of that war. But with gold, he figured that would be a great thing for the country to help kind of restock their money supply. And again, newspaper headlines told of overnight fortunes. Money was to be made not just in gold, but in outfitting all these men that were headed out there. Well, Sutter, let's get back to him. He was never able to sell the land that he had bought from the Indians because so many people swamped in. The claimed sales were hopeless. He had no way of enforcing his trespassing laws. And by the end of the summer, more than 10,000 men were looking for gold. And San Francisco was basically kind of deserted. I mean, it did become a boom town overnight. And at one time, even the banks were open 24 hours a day. Now, here's where the miners got mined. In 1849, a boarding house might have 20 to 100 cots in one room.
Oh, my.
20 to 100, just in one room.
Oh,
and a cot cost $20 a week for an 8-hour shift. In other words, you only got your cot for 8 hours, and then you were out.
Oh,
the next guy got the next 8 hours.
Huh.
So, anyway, you had to supply your own bedding. Now, a lot in town that sold for $21 in 1847 might sell for $5,000 to $7,000 in 1849, and the same lot a few years later, $30,000 to $40,000 for a lot in San Francisco.
And really, we complain about inflation today, but 150 years ago, they had inflation that was almost, when you figure the percentages, worse than it is today.
Oh, yeah, huge, yeah. And by 1847, there was less than 500 people in San Francisco. 2 years later, there was at least 25,000.
Holy cow.
Anyway, the strike spread out from Sutter's Mill. North of Sutter's Mill, they had mines up there that 2 mines took over 300 pounds of nuggets and dust in 2 weeks. 300 pounds. And in fact, there was one story where some miners stopped to catch some fish. They cooked their salmon and they started to clean up dishes. And as they cleaned up their dishes, they found gold in the bottom of the pot they'd been cooking the fish in.
Oh, my.
Cleaned up in the creek.
Huh.
So, anyway, the gold strike lasted until about the mid-1850s, and they figure about 400 million worth of gold found its way to San Francisco alone. And altogether, about 600 million in gold was taken from those gold fields by about 1860. Now, while the California gold strike was probably the most important in the 1800s, as I mentioned, as far as settling the West, it really wasn't the most lucrative. The famous Nevada Comstock lode, which is right over in there, produced over 400 million in 1859. And then the Black Hills Homestake mine in 1876, they figure it produced $1 billion in gold.
Holy
Probably
smokes.
the single richest mine in history.
Oh, my.
Dollars back then.
Goodness sakes. The only guy that was left in San Francisco was Paladin.
Yeah, that's right. Or Soapy Smith.
Yeah.
But now in Deadwood, South Dakota, over 100,000 worth of gold a day was being transacted. And then in Colorado, mines there have produced more gold overall than even California.
Wow.
So like I say, there were other areas that really produced more, like I say, Deadwood, and then you get up into Nevada, the Virginia City area. I mean, there's just lots of gold that was taken throughout the whole West.
What caused the declination of the search or the rabid search for gold? I mean, what was the last straw?
That's a good question. I think it just gradually, it's one of those things that as they would rush from one strike to another strike to another strike, I think some of these guys just finally got to the realization that they weren't going to make big bucks. And I think some of them just finally gave up and went home.
Yeah.
And then there's those that did make a lot of money and just quit. And I think that it got harder and harder to mine these mines, these gold strikes. And that's when they started bringing in these, what they call these stamps. That would they'd pull out the ore, stamp the ore, and then they'd use other methods, to get the gold out of the ore.
Well, they always
harder and harder for just a single miner with a pan.
Oh, absolutely. And, they always said that being a hard rock miner, or a gold miner, boy, you can make your fortune. But you know something? For the one that might make it, there were literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds that they broke their backs or broke their souls and ended up with nothing.
Right. Well, we've talked about the Klondike and the thousands of men that went into the Klondike, and so relatively few actually really made any money.
Yeah, well, I know living proof of one that made it big, and he went to chiropractic school and made it millions and millions of dollars. Dr. Ken Turner, you might know him.
Yeah. Well, that's a well-kept secret in Burley, Idaho. So well-kept, I don't think he even knows it.
You did it again with a great story, and doggone it, it's always good to have you on the air. But we want to remind everybody real quick before we run out of time, dr-history.com. What does that mean?
Dr-history.com. You can go listen anytime, anywhere, even when you're driving down the road on your smartphone, to any of the probably 12 or 15 stories we have on there now, including today's story. And I actually checked on the stats, and we actually have listeners in Japan, China, Europe, South America, and I don't know where these people are hearing about us, but we're actually getting listeners from literally all over the world right now.
Holy cow, we haven't severed relations with any country, have we?
Well, that's why we got to keep this family-oriented, I guess.
Dr. History, you always do such a great job. Dr. Ken Turner, and by the way, this weekend's going to be a special day for you, and I salute you as being one of the nicest guys in the world.
Well, I appreciate it, Zev. It's been as you know, I'm retiring, and I'm just looking forward to a little more free time, and I've got a nephew that's taken over for me, and he's going to do a great job here in my office.
All right. Well, listen, I thank you so much, but we're going to continue on with Dr. History.
You bet, we will.
All right. God bless you, man. Thank you.
You have a good day, Zeb.
All right. Remember, if you want to listen to these podcasts, be sure and write it down, dr-history.com. Okay? Very, very interesting. Holy cow, I got to pay some bills. Don't forget Harris Plumbing NG. Nathan Harris and his crew for all your plumbing service needs. There is only one number that Deanna and I will call for our plumbing service needs, and that's Harris Plumbing NG, 431-8633. One call does it all. Excellent service, and I can attest to that. Reliable, responsible, and very professional, and I am impressed with their job and their service to the public. Harris Plumbing NG, remember the number, 431-8633. And before we go any further, I've got to also quickly tell you about what's going on over at Rupert with some of the businesses. Yes, sirree, for the 4th of July celebration. Haskin Insurance Service, 629 Fremont Street in Rupert. You bet, 436-4141. The folks at Haskin Insurance would like to wish all their customers and friends a happy and very safe 4th of July holiday. Don't forget, for all your home, auto, farm, life, or health insurance, please give them a call. Mike, Don, and Terry are there to serve you as they have been for over 50 years of combined service in Rupert. Located in downtown Rupert since the turn of the century, they will serve you. Haskin Insurance Service, your partner in insurance protection. And also, let's not forget Dixon Oil Company, 602 South 2nd in Rupert. My goodness, they've been in business since 1976, and they know how to give you and your vehicle the best service possible. Don't forget, they've got all the fuels, they've got all the oils, they've got Daryl and the crew at Dixon Oil wishing you a very happy 4th of July. Be safe. Get your vehicle checked out today. Dixon Oil. And that's at 602 South 2nd in Rupert, 436-6609. We're going to be back right after this with Dave Bigo back in Indiana.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Once again, a reminder, don't forget our friends Brent Anthon and Matt Darrington of Anthon Darrington Law Offices at 601 7th Street in Rupert. Number to call, 260-5280. Once again, 260-5280. A couple of Declan boys that really know law in the areas of wills and trusts and estates and ag law, water law, farm leases and purchases. Please contact them today. Brent Anthon, Matt Darrington, Anthon Darrington PLLC at 601 7th Street in Rupert. Number again, 260-5280. I'm going to get a chance now to talk to an old friend of mine that's been on this program numerous times, and I've got the utmost respect for him. He is the president and CEO of Executive Management Services Incorporated, a great author of the books The Devil at Our Doorstep and The Devil at My Doorstep, and, of course, a blog writer extraordinaire. Here he is, Mr. Dave Bigo. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Zeb. How you doing?
I am great. You know, for all the time I've known you, I did not know that you were a Sky King and had your pilot's license.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I started about 14 years ago, so something I enjoy.
Well, so the next time I look skyward and see a 747 cruising overhead, it's probably you with the company jet, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Dave, I wanted to get you on the program because you're a common sense kind of a guy. I mean, I look up to you as, boy, when there's the world seems to be falling apart, you've got a common sense approach to everything. But really, in general, wouldn't you agree with me that no matter where you look, no matter what you read, whatever you study in the news today, the world seems to be falling apart and a mess? Wouldn't you agree with me?
Well, it is, and I believe that a lot of it is because our current president is not keeping America in the forefront, leading the world, and we're seeing America decline and the rest of the world with it, and it's sad.
What can we do? Now, you're a businessman that's been highly successful, and you have many, many people employed in your profession, and you have to be a manager. And that's what I think is wrong today. We do not have people that can be good managers of government and also the American people. How do we turn this thing around?
Well, I really believe, and I've talked about this at length, and I think I've mentioned it to you before, that we have to get politicians. And it's interesting you brought that up, because I was having lunch with the president of Cathedral High School here in Indianapolis just before I came on the show, and he's a good guy, and we were talking about the exact same thing you've just brought up, and the politicians in this country and everything. And on the conservative side, when you look at the people that we have in office, it's not that they're bad people. It's just, I think we forgot our way, and that's appealing to the common folks, all of Americans, and getting in front of them and letting them know what we really stand for, and being in their neighborhoods and churches, talking to them and that. And instead, they want to go to meetings, business meetings, and shirt and ties and collect money. And they're not identifying with the American people, and we're not getting the people elected that we need, that have common sense, know how to run business, know how to reach out to people and run this country effectively.
Dave, you just said something in that last paragraph that I want to elaborate on a little bit. You said churches, and I'm going to be very emphatic. I think that the American public has got away from religion, got away from organized religion, got away from the Saturday Evening Post cover story of going to church with mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, and I think that's the key to getting back into an old-style America where values count, is going back to church. How would you respond to that?
Well, I definitely think it's important, and my family does it, my kids do it, and we think it's important, and I think we got to bring back our moral and religious culture in this country, and I think it's important to do that. And but you look at this president and his administration and the people supporting, the big labor bosses and the Soroses and that of the world. They could care less about that. It's all about control and power for them, and giving handouts. And it's interesting. I got a email from PJ Media here a little while ago that says Cloward and Piven everywhere. And you remember I talked about this on your show.
Yes.
Cloward and Piven wrote the paper. Columbia University professors wrote the paper that way to destroy America, capitalism and free markets, and that is high unemployment, high debt, high welfare, high entitlement programs, nationalized health care, nationalized education, and you look around, and where are we at now? Mm-hmm. And the reason they want to do that is because they want to rebuild this country with socialism so they can control everybody. And Americans need to wake up, and we need to get morality and God back in our lives.
Dave, when you look at this situation, and I've spent a lot of time on this border situation with these kids as young as 4, 5, 6, 7, on up to 17 years of age, all of a sudden just coming in masses, whether it's across the border on trains or walking, whatever. And now the government and the Obama administration, it has been proven with different memos, etc., they had planned this illegal alien kid invasion, if you will, since way last in January. They knew it was going to happen. They also knew approximately the numbers that would be coming in. And now our Border Patrol has turned into nothing more than glorified babysitters at the cost of the people living on the border. This is a mess.
Well, again, it goes back to this Cloward and Piven strategy. It adds more to our debt. It puts more burden on America. Eventually you collapse the economy. When you collapse the economy, then you can rebuild it, maybe declare martial law, whatever you can do to take over and make us into a socialistic totalitarian state. And this is the real concern we have, and I think people need to wake up to what's going on. The sad thing is, Zeb, this president and this administration, they do these things, and they say it's because they care for these people, and it's the right thing for Americans to do. And that the truth is, they don't care about these people. They could care less, or they wouldn't have put them in this situation where they're coming up through Mexico and being beat up and raped and all that kind of stuff. They're doing this for a reason, and it's for their own political agenda.
One of our mutual friends, Frosty Woldridge, is on the air every Monday, and he talked about this problem emphatically on Monday, and absolutely is adamant that we just can't afford this, Dave. And right now, there's even a representative on the East Coast that wants to, a Democratic representative, that wants you and I as taxpayers to hire a lawyer for every single individual child to represent them while they're here in the United States. You and I are going to pay for that too.
Well, it's crazy. And again, Zeb, it comes back to this whole thing. And I've seen this with the labor bosses. It's as we fought the unions, it's the same mentality. It's the same modus operandi. They look at this and they say, okay, we go after these people, we put so much pressure on them, we humiliate them, make them feel bad, we intimidate them until they do what we want them to do, and we have complete control over them. And these people, at the end of the day, Zeb, they think they're smarter than everybody else, and they're power hungry. And Americans need to wake up. And, we need to expose these people and get them out of office.
You say expose these people and get them out of office, and that brings to mind also another subject I wanted to mention to you and have your thoughts on, and that's the IRS and the total scandal, the smug attitude, the arrogancy of their leaders currently. Oh, the dog ate the hardware, we can't find the emails. What are your thoughts about the pugnacious attitude the IRS has against us and this congressional hearing?
Zeb, it goes back to what I just said. They don't care what we think. They have their agenda, they have their mode of operation, and they believe that they can just run over you and intimidate you and do whatever they want to do. And they're going to, and then they stand up and lie about that. No, this didn't happen, and we weren't trying to do this and all that. It's just not true. Again, they have an agenda, and that's to go after people that they don't agree with, that they're trying to intimidate, like the Tea Party and people like that. And the only way they know how to do it is through attacking them. And I spoke in front of the Whip Committee for the Republican House here a year ago, and I told them that you have to turn this around. You guys got to quit playing defense. You've got to go on offense, and you got to go after these guys and expose them, and really expose them to the American people, and turn the tide here. And we see some of it, but not near enough of what we need. And I just want one other thing for your listeners. And with the IRS, I don't know if you have heard this or not, but the IRS, with their union, allows the union to spend $23.5 million a year on what's called official time for union members when they're on the job. And what official time is they're at work, but they get to spend all this time working on union matters and not business matters. Oh, my goodness sakes.
Dave, there's another issue that, quite frankly, I think is going to be possibly the Armageddon and the crippler of our economy and the world's economy, and that's the situation over in Iraq. It was estimated this weekend, I was listening to some of the Shell oil people say that by the end of August we could be seeing $1 more at the pumps. Inflation is going to be running rampant, and I don't know how the economy is going to stand up. We've got our heels on the edge of the cliff now. What are your thoughts about these proposed increases in energy as it relates to Iraq's crisis?
Well, I'm sure it could happen. And, again, everything you bring up keeps going back to the Cloward-Piven model.
Yeah.
You put so much pressure on the economy that it collapses and the government takes over. And this is the reason, you think about it, why the president hasn't been in favor of the Keystone Pipeline. He's not in favor of fracking or natural gas or anything like that, because he doesn't want to make life better and less expensive for the American people. He wants control of this country, and the way to do it is to crash the economy and take over.
Dave, back in Indianapolis, in your portion of the world, is it a gimme? Is it a kind of a foregone conclusion that Hillary's going to get the nod for the Democrats? What are your thoughts about this? Because now with this new book that's coming out, whether it's factual or whether it's fiction, by Edward Klein called Blood Feud, there's a lot of questions that have been raised about Hillary's health and also her being able to be the president. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's premature at this point, to be honest with you, and I think it's a distraction from the 2014 elections. I think we need to keep the eye on the ball, and the conservatives, Republicans, the Tea Party, Libertarian Party, they need to understand that we have to get control of the Senate, and this is what we've got to concentrate on right now. And I think that the Democratic Party and the Clintons and the administration are doing these things to get people thinking down the road, and they're also trying to get people motivated to go out to vote for the Democrats this fall. And it's just like, I don't know if you saw today in the Wall Street Journal, but Obama has, in a meeting yesterday, believes the U.S. should have paid maternity leave in all businesses.
Oh my.
That means people off 9 months are going to get paid during that time period. He says that's because the rest of the world does it. Well, here's another example of them making these broad statements that aren't true. It's misinformation, but they're doing it to get people interested in them. They're pandering for votes this fall. And Zeb, I think we need to keep our eye on the ball. Don't worry about Hillary. Let's take care of the elections in November.
Absolutely well stated. Dave, final thought. You and I visited many, many times about the power of the unions. We've talked about Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker. I just had a Cornell University professor on talking about Scott Walker and how he has had a target put on his back by the liberal left. They're going to go after this guy no matter what. The power of the unions and what they can do to denigrate and destroy people is absolutely, it's really shown on this case with Scott Walker. I'd like to have you comment on that if you would.
Well, yeah, I've met Scott Walker. He's a great man. I like him. I've written a couple blogs back when he was elected, and then he went through the recall election.
Right.
And the way he won is, Zeb, and this is what I think conservative candidates need to do, is he got out into the different neighborhoods and churches, and he talked to people of all backgrounds, the stripes and religions and that. And, he was even out in the union areas, and he gathered like 35 to 40% of the union vote. And the reason is because people found out who he really was, that he was a good man, and he's got a lot of the same ideas and thoughts that they do. And the Democratic Party and the unions are scared to death of him because they're afraid if he gets out on the national scene, he will be a big hit by getting out in front of people like this. Because I'll tell you, I've seen him speak, and he speaks from the heart. He doesn't speak from papers. He looks at people in the eye. He's sincere. And these are the type of people we need. And, yeah, the unions have a big target on his back. But, there's a lot of people supporting him, and I'm hoping he comes through, and I hope the Republican Party wakes up and nominates him for president.
Absolutely well stated. My dear friend, Dave Bego, President and CEO of Executive Management Services Incorporated and author of some great books, The Devil at Our Doorstep, The Devil at My Doorstep. Dave, I really appreciate it. And by the way, real quick, how does football season look? Give us a little preview. The Indianapolis Colts, Andrew Luck versus the Green Bay Packers and Rodgers.
I think you're going to owe me another bottle of wine.
Oh, brother. Here we go. Why don't I just buy you the winery instead of the bottles, for heaven's sakes? No, I appreciate you being on the program, my dear friend. God's blessings to you. And anytime you're in the neighborhood, hopefully in Colorado, we can meet sometime this summer. Love to see you. Thank you for being on the program this morning.
Well, thanks for having me on, and you and your lovely wife take care out there.
God bless. Thank you so much. Dave Vigo from Indianapolis, Indiana. Thank you so much. We've got to do a weather forecast real quick, and the weather is brought to you this hour by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. They're selling taste one bite at a time. Oh, my goodness, they guarantee everything they sell. They've got a summer barbecue special of 50 pounds of beef, pork, and chicken, and their marinated tri-tips are really delicious. Don't forget to give them a call. Find out more. 324-7657. Scarro's Meats over in Jerome. And right now, here is Michael Rogers Weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers of MichaelRogersWeather.com. Nice day in the Magic Valley neighborhood. Although you do have some clouds in the area, you're okay. You're going to be pretty nice all the way through the week. There is a slight chance of a thunderstorm on Thursday night. I'll nail that for you tomorrow. But otherwise, you got a pretty nice day. 86 for the high, 50 for the overnight low for tomorrow, 87 for the high, and 50 also for the overnight low. Have a nice day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Selling taste one bite at a time. You call them at 324-7657. I'm going to visit with Gina in just a moment, but I want to remind everybody, too, about your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, the best tire value promise in the industry. You better believe it, with free peace of mind tire protection. Whatever the road throws at you, from potholes to nails, if your tire is damaged from any road hazard, they will replace the value of your tire. And free lifetime tire and mileage care, too. Stop in and get the best of tires. All the different tread designs for your style of driving. For your cars, pickups, and SUVs, horse trailers, boat trailers, they've got them all. Along with the best in brake service, the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, and of course the batteries, the custom wheels, and they've got easy credit plans to choose from too. 4 different credit plans available at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, Twist Family and Paul, John on Poline and Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Gina, how are you doing this morning? Thank you for all your help, as always.
Oh, not a problem, and I am doing well. Looking forward to the rest of a busy day.
Hey, by the way, did you hear, now this is a developing story, and I just wanted to throw this at you. I was following this a little bit this morning while we were on the air during the breaks at the news on the top of the hour. 50% of the people that are living in Detroit, Michigan, cannot pay their water bill. They're broke. So here's what they did. They decided to band together in some of the slum areas and everything else, and they're suing the city of Detroit, saying they don't have to pay their water bill. They're saying that water is a necessary commodity for living, so they should get their water free. And they've gone to the United Nations, and they're going to try to sue the United States and the city of Detroit for not giving them free water.
We have to pay for water, too.
Well, go figure. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine. Where are the lawyers?
In the United Nations.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't hear you.
Why are they bringing in the United Nations?
Oh, because the United Nations hates the United States, and they hate our policies. So these people thought, by getting these attorneys, you know, kind of like the weird radical liberal left, they would go sue the United States through the United Nations, saying that water is a necessary commodity for everybody to live, and by not having to pay their water bills, they feel like they're getting a commodity that is given to them by the grace of God, and they shouldn't have to pay for it.
This is a dumb question because I don't know much about this story. The background of the people, are they natural American U.S.-born citizens, or are they people who have come in from other countries?
Well, some are, some aren't. There's a wide potpourri of these different people back there.
Okay.
Basically, we're talking about the deadbeats that won't pay their bills, can't pay their bills, won't work, and don't have a job. So now, imagine this, though. If the United Nations comes after the United States and says, well, water, why, that's a commodity everybody needs. You can't charge for that, and they sue the United States through the United Nations.
Okay, hold on a second. Now, in the rest of maybe, let's say, the European nations, and of course maybe in the Middle East, what kind of water quality do they have?
Very poor.
Exactly, and so then, therefore, we are offering, we have water treatment plants, we have, all of this infrastructure in place to make sure that people are getting quality water.
That's right.
Not only to use, but to drink. And so how do they think that we can afford to give them that for free when we have to pay for it?
It all boils down to the liberal left, gimme, 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 I'm not going to do anything for it, you're going to provide it for me, and I'm going to sit back and be a big sponge, and I'm going to take everything you give me. This is the society that we have. That's why Detroit has more exodus of people leaving every day to get out of a filthy condition of Detroit. That's the problem. We're nothing more than leeches back in the big cities right now. And to think that they were going to try to sue the United States through the United Nations, this is almost asinine.
I don't even think the United Nations should be brought into a city issue.
I'm going to bring up more about this tomorrow because it's a story that is absolutely, it blew my mind when I heard it. I got to get out of here and let you play radio for the rest of the day.
Okay, you let me do that. You have a wonderful
I will. Zeb at the Ranch. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06. God bless the way things were, the way things ought to be. See you tomorrow morning. Thank you much.